The universe did not begin with a bang. It did not roar into existence with fire and thunder. There was no explosion, no detonation echoing across the void. What we call the Big Bang was silent, a whisper, a moment without sound, unfolding, not into space, but as space itself. You've been told it was loud, violent, magnificent, but you've been misled by the words used to describe it. The universe did not erupt into emptiness. There was no emptiness to erupt into. Space, time, matter. All of it was born from nothing. And even that word, nothing, fails us. You might wonder how something can emerge from nothing, but before you ask that, you need to let go of everything. You know, time, cause, space, these are not the foundations of the universe. They are its children. They didn't exist until after it began. So ask yourself this: if there was no before, no outside, no time for a cause to exist in, then what does it mean to begin at all? Imagine this. Rewind everything. Galaxies spiral back together. Stars shrink into dark, dense cores. Planets dissolve into gas. Atoms unravel. Keep going. Backward through the ages. Past the first light. Past the first atoms. Past even the first seconds. Back to the beginning, what do you see? Nothing. Not darkness, not blackness, because even those require contrast. No shadows, because shadows need light. No silence, because silence requires ears. Just a single, infinite point, smaller than small, beyond the limits of comprehension. A singularity, and then a change. Not an explosion, but a transformation. The beginning not in time, but of time. A moment that didn't come after anything. It simply was. And yet, here's the terrifying part. That moment may not have been the beginning at all. What if the universe didn't start from a singularity? What if that was just the edge of our understanding? What if what we call the beginning is simply where our math breaks down, where our tools fail, and our minds retreat into metaphor? Maybe the Big Bang was not the first note in a cosmic symphony, but the echo of something deeper, stranger, something older, something hidden. You sit in a chair, eyes locked to a screen, thinking you're safe, but everything around you, your breath, your thoughts, your heartbeat, was written in that first moment. Not just your body, but your memories, your regrets, your love. The entire story of you was encoded into the machinery of time at that invisible, unknowable instant. The way the stars burn, the way galaxies collide, the way minds ask questions, all of it was already in motion before motion even existed. And still, we believe we understand it. We give it names: Big Bang, inflation, singularity, as if naming something grants us power over it. But words are not answers. They are fingers pointing at what we cannot grasp. Because somewhere beyond the edge of time, beyond even the mathematics, there may lie something we were never meant to see, a truth too vast, too elegant, too quiet to be shouted. And it waits, patient, unseen. So now you ask, what caused it all? But maybe that's the wrong question. Maybe there wasn't a cause. Maybe the universe just is no trigger, no spark, just an inevitable becoming. But that idea is terrifying, isn't it? That there might be no reason, no why, just a vast, cold, unfolding, beautiful, yes, but indifferent. The stars do not care that you look at them. The cosmos does not pause for your awe. It simply continues. Still, within that terrifying indifference is something miraculous. You, the observer, the questioner, the one who wonders not just how the universe began, but why it ends. Because, deep in your mind, perhaps in your final thought, you will return to this question, back to that moment before moments, that whisper before all sound. And in that final breath, the universe may answer, not with words, but with silence, not with light, but with memory, because perhaps the end, Samadhi, is not a conclusion, but a return. In the beginning, at least the beginning we think we understand, the universe was small. Not just small like a marble or a pebble in your hand, smaller, condensed. A boundless sea of energy crammed into a point so infinitesimal it had no dimensions. And then it began to grow, not into something, but into everything. Time yawned open, space stretched. Light, its first breath, broke free into the darkness that had never existed before. We call this the Big Bang, but even that name is a lie. There was no bang, no sound, because there was no air to carry it, no ears to hear it. What happened was an unfolding, a stretching, a sudden bloom of being from non-being. Not in the sense of a firework in the night, but more like a ripple through a fabric that had only just learned to be woven. And this ripple, this cascading expansion, continues. Even now, when you breathe, when you blink, when you wonder if you matter. That same expansion carries galaxies farther and farther apart, like leaves drifting across an invisible tide. You've seen the images, those dazzling spirals of light, the majestic dance of galaxies, the silent swirl of nebulae painting the canvas of deep space. But what you don't see, what hides between those points of light, is the real story, because space itself is not a stage. It's a participant. It bends, it moves, it grows. Gravity isn't just a force pulling objects together. It's a bending of the very geometry of existence. Mass tells space how to curve, and space tells mass how to move. This isn't poetry. It's physics. Einstein's revelation. Time and space are not separate. They're a single, fluid entity. A four-dimensional ocean that responds to every presence within it. So when you ask where the universe began, you must ask it differently, because there was no where. There was only when. The Big Bang didn't happen at a point in space. It happened everywhere, all at once. And as the universe expanded, it didn't explode into empty space. It created space as it went. The edge you imagine, some distant curtain, beyond which lies nothing, is an illusion. The universe has no edge, not because it goes on forever, but because it wraps in on itself in ways your mind was never designed to see. And here is where it begins to unravel. We measure the universe in redshifts and microwave whispers. We track the afterglow of creation, the cosmic microwave background, like detectives at a crime scene long gone cold. That ancient radiation still pours through your body. a billion-year-old echo from a time when atoms had only just learned how to hold each other. That glow tells us the universe is expanding, but faster than we expected. Galaxies are accelerating away from one another, driven by something we cannot see: dark energy, a force that makes up 68% of everything, and yet we know almost nothing about it. We mapped the galaxies, we charted the stars, and in doing so, we discovered a haunting truth. What we can see, planets, stars, dust, light, is less than 5% of the universe. The rest is invisible, mysterious, dominant, dark matter clumps together in vast, unseen webs, binding galaxies like ghosts of gravity. Dark energy pulls the cosmos apart like a silent scream expanding through time. These aren't science fiction concepts. They are real. We see their effects. We measure their fingerprints. But we don't know what they are. So tell me, if most of the universe is made of things we cannot see, touch, or explain, how can we claim to understand it? We say the universe began with a bang. We say it has no edge. We say time flows forward. But here's a contradiction. If time began at the Big Bang, then what caused it? Can something begin without a cause? Or are we trapped inside a cosmic story that loops back on itself, where effect becomes cause, and cause dissolves into effect? Now, imagine the early universe again, not just hot, but blinding. A place where atoms couldn't exist, where light bounced endlessly off a wall of plasma. A furnace where time itself was still learning how to crawl. Matter didn't exist the way you know it. There were no solid objects, no landscapes, only pure energy, vibrating, collapsing, reforming. Quarks and gluons danced in a liquid so dense it had no form, and then cooling, slowing, structure. The universe was building itself, particle by particle. And from that chaos came order. Stars ignited, galaxies spun, and from their ashes came the seeds of life. But this order is not guaranteed. Entropy waits. It always waits. The universe tends toward disorder. That is the second law of thermodynamics. Everything burns. Everything breaks. Everything fades. So here's a deeper contradiction. If the universe had a beginning, and if entropy is always increasing, then isn't there an end? But what kind of end? Will the universe collapse into itself, reversing time in a grand implosion? Or will it freeze, stretching thin until every atom is alone and cold in the dark? Or will it rip apart, the very fabric of space torn open by its own acceleration? Science gives us theories, but none of them offer certainty, because the laws we trust may not hold forever. They may not even apply at the extremes. This is the stage we've set. A universe born in silence, expanding into mystery, made mostly of things we can't see, governed by laws we barely understand. And yet, we believe we can predict its future. But remember this, what we call knowledge is only what remains after we forget how strange everything truly is. Imagine reality as a film reel, not one playing forward, but one that already exists in its entirety. Every frame, every flicker of movement, past, present, and future, etched into the celluloid of existence. Now imagine you, sitting in the theater of consciousness, watching one moment after another. You think the reel is playing, but it's not. You're simply experiencing the illusion of motion, of time. This is one of the most unsettling ideas in modern physics. That time doesn't flow, that it's static, immutable. that your birth, your death, your final thought, they're not destinations on a journey, but fixed points in a grand four-dimensional sculpture called space-time. Einstein believed this. In fact, he wrote it plainly. The distinction between past, present, and future is only a stubbornly persistent illusion. And if that illusion is shattered, what remains? We begin here with singularities, those dense, gravitational maelstroms where our understanding collapses. Black holes are the most familiar kind. They form when massive stars exhaust their fuel and collapse under their own weight, crushing all matter into a point of infinite density, a singularity. Space and time cease to function normally there. At the center, the laws of physics as we know them fall apart. Gravity becomes infinite. Volume becomes zero. Information, we think, is erased. But is it? Hawking suggested it might be lost. That black holes evaporate slowly over time via Hawking radiation, bleeding mass into the void, leaving nothing behind. But this raised the information paradox, a problem so profound it threatens the very foundation of quantum mechanics, which insists that information can never be truly destroyed. Now picture this. A single particle falls into a black hole. Encoded in it is everything: its spin, charge, quantum state. If it vanishes completely, that data is gone. The universe forgets. But quantum theory does not allow forgetting. So scientists face a contradiction that feels almost theological. Either black holes defy quantum mechanics, or reality itself is lying to us. Some believe the information isn't lost, but scrambled, burned into the event horizon like a cosmic barcode. This led to the holographic principle, an idea so radical it reimagines the universe as a projection. That everything we see, feel, live, is merely a 3D illusion cast from a 2D boundary, like a shadow on the wall. Now, hold that thought, because it gets stranger. Let's travel backward again, beyond stars, beyond galaxies, to the first moments of the universe. At time zero, we encounter another singularity, the Big Bang. But unlike a black hole, which draws everything inward, the Big Bang pushed everything outward. Or did it? What if the Big Bang was a white hole, a theoretical object that expels matter, the exact opposite of a black hole? Where black holes devour, white holes erupt. They can't be entered. They can only push outward. Now imagine, every black hole in our universe is connected to a white hole in another. That on the other side of every point of collapse is a birth. This is the foundation of Einstein-Rosen bridges, wormholes, hypothetical tunnels through the fabric of space-time. Theoretically, a black hole on one end, a white hole on the other. Some physicists believe such bridges are possible, that space-time isn't flat, but can be twisted, bent, and even connected, like folding a sheet of paper to let two distant points touch. So what does that mean for you? It means that falling into a black hole might not be the end. It might be a doorway, a one-way ticket to another universe, or another version of this one. And now, we step deeper into speculation, the multiverse. This isn't science fiction. It's mathematics. It's probability. It's quantum mechanics. Specifically, the many worlds interpretation. Every decision, every particle interaction doesn't collapse into one outcome. It branches. Each possible outcome exists somewhere. Every path taken and every path not taken has its own world. Right now, there may be a version of you who never watched this video, another who never existed at all. But if these infinite versions of reality exist, why do we experience only one? That's the mystery. Some theories suggest we're like a needle sliding down a groove on a vinyl record. Consciousness moves along, a track, bound to one set of possibilities. But outside that groove are countless others, just as real, just as alive. Entire galaxies spinning in silence, where the laws of physics might twist in unfamiliar ways. In some universes, gravity might be weaker. In others, time might loop. In some, there may be no time at all. And now we arrive at one of the most dangerous questions in physics. What if the universe loops, not in space, but in time? You've heard of time travel, of paradoxes where you meet your past self, or accidentally prevent your own birth. These are fun to imagine, but they also hide deeper truths. Theoretical physics allows for closed time-like curves, pathways through space-time that bend back upon themselves. If such paths exist, cause and effect dissolve. You might be your own grandfather. Your final thought might be the same as your first. In one interpretation, the universe could be a self-contained loop, without beginning or end. The Big Bang doesn't start time. It's just a point on the loop, one we pass again and again. But can a loop have a cause? If each moment begets the next, and time is circular, then there is no first cause, no origin, just recursion, a perfect circle of events, eternally playing itself out like a cosmic song with no beginning and no final note. And still, deeper questions linger. What if you are the loop? What if consciousness is not a product of time, but the thing that holds time together? That the universe exists because you are observing it, not the other way around. Some physicists have proposed the participatory universe, that reality collapses into existence only when observed, that without a conscious mind to perceive it, the universe is just potential, a blurred canvas awaiting attention. But if the universe needs observers, who observed the first moment? Who watched the Big Bang? There's a paradox at the edge of everything we know, a contradiction so vast, so deeply embedded in the code of reality, that to stare at it too long is to risk unraveling reason itself. It begins with this: if the universe had a beginning, why? Not how. We've built models for that. Inflation, theory, quantum fluctuations, vacuum states. These describe how the universe may have expanded, but not why it ever bothered to exist. Physics, at its core, is great at answering how. But why, the terrifying, aching why, is not part of its vocabulary, and that silence is deafening. Some physicists argue there is no why, that asking the question is meaningless, a trick of language, that the universe just is. But you, sitting here in this moment, breathing, watching, wondering, you know better. Deep down, something in you demands that there must be a reason. And that need, that ache for meaning, that might be the very thing that created the question in the first place. But even more disturbing than why did the universe begin is this: is it real at all? Let's start with simulation theory. The idea is not new. Philosophers have toyed with it for centuries. But in 2003, philosopher Nick Bostrom gave it structure. If it's possible to simulate conscious beings in a universe, and if future civilizations are likely to run many such simulations, then statistically, it's overwhelmingly likely we are inside one of them. Think of it this way. If one advanced civilization creates 1 million conscious simulations, and each of those simulated beings thinks it's real, how can you be sure you're not one of them? You feel real. Your memories feel earned. But in a simulation? Those would be written into your code. The taste of your first love, the death of someone you cared for, the sound of rain on your roof. None of it would be yours. It would simply exist as data, executed in real time for you to experience, while somewhere, beyond the edge of this illusion, the true reality hums along, unaware. But here's where it gets worse. If we are in a simulation, what happens when it ends? Would there be signs, glitches in physics, limits to how much we can perceive? Some argue we've already found them. The speed of light, the Planck constant, the quantization of energy. What if these aren't fundamental laws, but artificial constraints, programming rules baked into the simulation? What if the universe feels mathematical because it is math? Quantum mechanics, at the smallest scale, is probabilistic. Nothing exists in a fixed state until it is observed. A particle can be everywhere and nowhere until you look. It's as if the universe doesn't bother rendering anything until a conscious observer checks. Like a game engine saving resources by only generating what's in your field of view. But then, what is consciousness? Here lies another paradox. Science can tell you what consciousness does. It can map brain activity, detect patterns, correlate neural firing with thoughts and decisions. But what it cannot do, what it has never done, is explain what it feels like to be you. That inner world, that sense of self. This is the hard problem of consciousness, and some scientists believe it will never be solved, that the act of experiencing, of being, is not reducible to physics or chemistry, that there is a gap between matter and mind that science cannot cross. And if that's true, then maybe consciousness doesn't emerge from the universe. Maybe the universe emerges from consciousness. Now let's go deeper, into the Fermi paradox. The universe is old. Trillions of stars. Billions of galaxies. And yet, silence. Where is everyone? Where are the alien civilizations? The galactic empires? The signals across the stars? If intelligent life evolved here, on Earth, a rocky, average planet orbiting a very average star, then why hasn't it evolved elsewhere, many times over? Some say it has, that we simply haven't found it yet. Others suggest civilizations destroy themselves before they can speak across the void. Nuclear war, climate collapse, AI gone rogue. But there's a darker theory. What if the silence is intentional? What if advanced civilizations don't speak because something is listening? The dark forest hypothesis suggests that the universe is a place of quiet terror. Every civilization, a hunter in the woods. Silence is survival. Because to announce your presence is to invite destruction. A single radio signal, a cosmic flare, and a predator might come. But who? Or what? Maybe the universe was teeming with life. And then it wasn't. Or maybe we're in a zoo. A simulation. A test. Now, pair that silence with the observation problem in quantum physics. If the act of observation alters the system, then what happens when the universe observes itself? That's not poetry. That's a serious question in cosmology. Because you, yes, you, are made of atoms forged in stars. Your eyes are stardust. Your brain is matter come alive. So when you look up at the stars, the universe is looking back at itself, observing itself, questioning its own nature. And maybe, just maybe, that is the whole point. But then we arrive at the cruelest paradox of all. Entropy, the law that says everything decays, everything breaks. Stars die, galaxies fade, Even black holes vanish. The universe is winding down. It may take trillions upon trillions of years, but eventually there will be nothing left. No stars, no light, no life. Just cold, stillness, silence, heat death. And here's the unbearable truth. If intelligence, consciousness, and beauty are possible, why would the universe build them only to erase them? What kind of God creates wonder and then uncreates it? And what if this moment, this tiny blink of awareness, is the only time anything in the universe will ever feel? You are alive in a window of light, bracketed on both ends by darkness, and no one knows why. But maybe the universe doesn't end in cold silence. Maybe it ends in collapse. The Big Crunch is one possible fate. A reversal. Gravity, the architect of stars and galaxies, slowly pulling everything back together. Not just matter, but space itself. Galaxies would fall inward. Clocks would tick faster. The cosmic web would tighten until, at last, everything, the very scaffolding of time, would shrink into a final, crushing moment. An echo of the beginning, but this time not silent, but suffocating. A universe rewinding itself. Now here's the paradox. If the universe ends in a big crunch, what happens next? Do the laws of physics simply vanish? Or is the final singularity the seed of a new beginning? Some theories suggest a cycle, a bouncing universe. Expand, collapse, expand again. Each cosmos born from the ashes of the one before it. But if this is true, how many times has this happened? And is this the first time we've asked? Could we be living in a universe built not from randomness, but from memory? A cosmos that remembers its previous iterations, where dark matter isn't just unknown particles, but the gravitational shadow of past realities still woven into the structure of space? This leads us into one of the strangest frontiers in theoretical physics. The arrow of time. Why does time move? Forward? Physics doesn't require it. The fundamental laws are symmetrical. They work just as well in reverse. But in your life, time has a direction. You age. You remember yesterday, not tomorrow. You drop a glass and it shatters. It never unshatters. This forward motion is called the arrow of time, and it's tied to entropy. Things fall apart. Disorder increases. But why did time start moving in one direction to begin with? Some physicists believe that at the moment of the Big Bang, the universe was in a state of extremely low entropy, a kind of perfect order. But that raises a devastating question. Why? How could such order emerge from nothing? If entropy increases, then the start must have been as orderly as possible. But that seems impossibly fine-tuned, like rolling a billion dice and getting the same number on everyone. And fine-tuning leads to yet another mystery. Why is the universe just right for life? The strength of gravity, the charge of the electron, the expansion rate of the universe. Each of these values lies within a razor-thin window. Shift any one of them by even the slightest amount, and the universe as we know it would not exist. Stars wouldn't form. Atoms wouldn't bind. Life would be impossible. So, how? Is it chance? Or design? Or is it that every combination of constants exists somewhere in an infinite multiverse, and we simply happen to be in one that allows for observers like us? This is the anthropic principle, the idea that the universe must be suitable for life, because otherwise we wouldn't be here to notice it. It's a self-filtering logic, but, to many scientists, it feels unsatisfying. like saying the reason you won the lottery is because you're the one holding the ticket. Others argue something deeper. That consciousness isn't just a side effect of the universe, but its purpose. This brings us to the final paradox. If the universe ends, if time stops, matter decays, and consciousness fades, what happens to meaning? What happens to love? To music? To the final thought of the final mind? Does it vanish? Or does it echo? Some suggest that consciousness might be fundamental, that it's not something the brain produces, but something it taps into, like a signal, a field, an ocean deeper than the stars. In this view, minds are like waves on that ocean, rising, cresting, and falling, but never separate. If that's true, then the final thought before the universe ends might not be a goodbye. It might be a return, a folding inward, a coming home. And if that thought, quiet, wordless, eternal, contains all that ever was, then, perhaps, nothing is ever truly lost. Not your memories, not your questions, not even you. Because maybe the last paradox is this: the end of the universe is not the end of you. Let's return once more to the edge of understanding, to the place where physics begins to tremble, where mathematics turns strange, where logic no longer comforts us. The vacuum, what we think of as empty space, is not truly empty. In fact, it seethes with activity, quantum fluctuations, virtual particles blinking in and out of existence in less than a trillionth of a second. This quantum foam may be the foundation of everything, the raw, untamed chaos out of which reality itself crystallizes, and it poses a terrifying possibility: that the vacuum is not perfectly stable, that our universe exists in a false vacuum, a local bubble, of order suspended in a sea of deeper chaos. If this is true, then the laws of physics, the constants of nature, the very fabric of what we call real, are temporary, an illusion of stability perched above an abyss, and one day, perhaps without warning, that bubble could pop. The vacuum decay. Theory suggests that a tiny, unstoppable bubble of true vacuum could form somewhere in space, expanding at the speed of light, rewriting the rules of physics as it goes, obliterating everything, not violently, but with a cold, perfect silence. No warning, no pain. One moment, you are here. The next, the laws that made you possible are simply gone. This isn't science fiction. It's real physics. But before fear sets in too deeply, consider this. If the universe were truly unstable, it likely would have collapsed already. And yet, you're here, conscious, listening, asking questions. And that, too, is a paradox, because consciousness, as far as we can tell, is incredibly rare. You might believe intelligence is common, that somewhere out there, other beings are asking the same questions. But there is no proof, no signal, no pattern of stars blinking in Morse code. And as time stretches on, the silence becomes harder to ignore. Some scientists think consciousness may be a brief phase, a candle that flares up in the middle of cosmic night, then flickers out. Others think it's the reason the universe exists at all, that to be observed is the goal of the cosmos, that awareness is not a bug, but the code itself. If so, then you are not small, you are not insignificant, you are the universe folding in, on itself, awakening to its own existence. A pattern of atoms given the power to ask what atoms are. A pocket of the cosmos granted the ability to feel time passing and to wonder where it's going. But where is it going? Time, the great river, the great deceiver. Some physicists now question whether time even exists. Maybe it's not fundamental at all, but emergent, like temperature or pressure, a pattern that arises from deeper laws. If that's true, then what we call the past and the future may just be illusions stitched together by our brains, desperately trying to make sense of a reality that never truly moves. And here we are again, at the edge, because if time doesn't exist, then endings don't exist either. The idea our universe may not end in fire, or ice, or silence. It may not end at all. It may simply be a vast, eternal structure outside our comprehension, filled with every possible version of every possible reality, forever hanging in an invisible frame. And you're the one thread of awareness moving across it. Not forward, just across. Like a needle sewing meaning into an infinite quilt. But meaning, too, is a paradox. If the universe ends, what does it mean that you lived? If no one remembers you, if no trace remains, was it real? Did you matter? These are not questions physics can answer. They belong to another language, one older than science, one rooted not in data, but in wonder. And perhaps that is the greatest mystery of all. Not how the universe ends, but that, in the middle of its infinite complexity, something like you was able to ask the question, not what the last thought is, but that there was ever a first. You've followed the science. You've seen the numbers. You've imagined singularities, timelines, cosmic loops, and unknowable ends. But now comes the part you weren't prepared for. The part where it becomes about you. Not just your body, not your breath, but your memories, your regrets, your joy, your fear. The strange, flickering thing you call yourself. So let me ask you this. What does it feel like to be a temporary pattern in a dying universe? What does it feel like to be awake, when everything else is sleeping? Because if what we've seen is true, if time is not real, if reality is layered with endless versions of itself, if the universe is burning toward silence, then who are you inside that story? You are not built for this scale. Your brain evolved to track predators in tall grass, to read faces, to guess whether someone loves you or lies to you. But here you are, trapped in a primate brain, staring into a cosmos that stretches across billions of light years, reading the fossil glow of stars that died before Earth even existed, and worse, knowing that it still isn't enough because, no matter how far you look, how deeply you dig, how many models you build, there's always something just beyond the veil. Another horizon, another question. What if the universe is alive, and we are just its fleeting thoughts? What if consciousness, what you are experiencing right now, isn't rare, but temporary? What if minds are like sparks, tiny flickers of heat inside a cold machine, illuminating nothing but their own small moment before fading? Or worse, what if you're the last? What if long after the stars have burned out, long after entropy has erased all structure, there is still one thinking being left, suspended in a collapsing pocket of space, alone, forgotten, remembering every era, every civilization, every act of love and violence, long after there's nothing left to remember them. That is the weight of awareness. And maybe that's what makes us human. Because you've seen a sunset, you've heard laughter echo off walls you didn't build, you've tasted things so small they seemed insignificant. until you lost them. You've dreamed. You've hoped. You've wondered if someone, somewhere, once thought of you and smiled. And all of that happened inside this, inside a universe that doesn't care, that doesn't remember, that doesn't feel. Unless, of course, it's you. Unless the stars are neurons, the galaxies are synapses. The web of cosmic filaments is the tangled brain of something immense, something old, something dreaming. And we are the dream. That idea should comfort you, or destroy you. Because if we are the dreams of the universe, then maybe death isn't the end. Maybe we are recycled, replayed, reimagined. Maybe love is the echo of gravity itself, a law not of attraction, but of connection. But what if that's not true? What if we are not important at all? What if we are a fluke, a cosmic mutation, into a universe that will never do this again? What if everything you are, your name, your memories, your fears, vanishes when you do? No records, no echoes, just gone. Would you live any differently, knowing that? Would you still love, if love left? No trace? Would you still be kind, if no one remembered your name? Or would you scream into the abyss, hoping something, anything, was listening? That scream is older than language. It's the scream of every human who stared into the stars and realized how small they were. It's the scream of civilizations, who carved meaning into stone, into music, into sky maps, desperate to leave something behind. It's the scream of being conscious in a place that doesn't care if you are. And yet, we go on. We sing. We paint. We name stars we'll never reach. We raise children. We write stories. We chase beauty. We endure. And maybe that's the answer. Maybe the universe doesn't care. And maybe that's okay. Because we do. We are the meaning machines. We are the ones who look at a dying star and call it beautiful. Who see chaos and write poetry. Who hold hands in the dark and say, "Don't worry, I'm here." And if that isn't powerful, then what is? Because if time is an illusion, then everything you've ever done might have already happened infinite times before, and will happen again. Every kiss, every goodbye, every final breath. The universe may end, but maybe, just maybe, your last thought never does. Close your eyes. Now imagine everything you know, drifting away. Not in a dream, but in the raw language of physics. Matter dissolving, space thinning, time unraveling like old thread. And yet, there you are, still aware, still asking questions, still trying to remember the name of someone who once meant everything to you, though their face is gone now, smeared into the haze of entropy. This is what it means to feel the end, not of a world, but of all worlds. Not the death of a planet, or a star, or even a galaxy, but the idea that anything was ever alive. Somewhere deep inside, you might be asking, why am I here? What is the purpose of being born into a universe that will forget me, that doesn't need me, that will go on, cold and indifferent, long, after my body fails and my voice is dust? These questions are older than science, older than words. They burn behind your ribs at 3:17 a.m. when the house is silent and the sky outside your window holds more stars than your mind can bear. And they hurt because no one has ever answered them. Not the physicists, not the philosophers, not even the gods we carved into myth. Because maybe there is no answer, or maybe you're the answer. Maybe awareness was the goal all along. Not conquest, not immortality, just this, the fragile, trembling miracle of being a witness, of knowing the difference between silence and a song. But even that idea comes at a cost. Because if you are the witness, then you must also witness the end. The last star burning out. The last galaxy drifting into isolation. The last photon flung across a universe that no longer remembers why it ever bothered to shine. Cosmic horror doesn't come from monsters. It comes from scale. From realizing that everything you've ever loved exists on a pale speck of rock, orbiting a forgettable star in a galaxy no one outside this bubble will ever visit. That even your most sacred memories, the soft curve of a hand, the warmth of someone saying your name, are chemical echoes, temporary, fragile, fleeting. But here's the twist, the one truth that punches through the dread. You're not watching this alone. You're not the only one asking. Right now, at this very second, millions of other human beings are awake, staring at the same stars, feeling the same fear, trying to outrun it, or sit with it, or write it down before it slips away. There is something holy in that, something unspoken and yet shared. You are not alone in your terror. You are not alone in your awe. Because that's the great paradox. The more we learn about the universe, the more we feel like we don't belong in it. And yet, the more clearly, we see that we are exactly what the universe has been building toward. Every atom in your body has done this before, lived inside stars, died in collisions, floated in the void for billions of years before it became part of your skin, your lungs, your thoughts. You are the afterlife of supernovae. You are a walking archive of cosmic history. And yet, you are so much more than the sum of particles. You are meaning, curiosity, connection. You are the universe studying itself and saying, I see you. And maybe, just maybe, that's the point. Maybe the universe wanted to be known, even just once, even just briefly, even if that knowing dies in the dark, because nothing can take it away. Not time, not death, not entropy. The universe ends, but the fact that you asked why it ends, that might be eternal. And now we arrive. The edge. The final breath of time. The silence after the last question. You've journeyed through singularities and timelines, across galaxies and paradoxes, into the very machinery of existence. And still, it wasn't enough. Because there's one last idea, one final truth, so strange, so enormous, that to speak it aloud feels like heresy. What if the universe is already dead? What if everything we see, every galaxy, every heartbeat, every flicker of light, isn't happening in real time, but is a memory? A fading echo playing out across the hollow bones of a cosmos that has already passed into silence? Think of a star exploding millions of years ago. The light from that explosion is only just reaching you now. You see it, but it no longer exists. Its death is ancient, its brilliance a ghost. Now expand that to everything. What if time itself is like that starlight, a delayed broadcast? What if you are a playback, a recording trapped in space-time's final loop, reliving its memories before the system shuts down? It sounds impossible. But mathematics doesn't disagree. The laws of physics don't require the universe to be alive in the way we imagine. They only require patterns, order, structure, and patterns can persist long after the thing that created them is gone. Cosmic background radiation, fossil light, planetary orbits, inertia from ancient dances, consciousness, maybe just a shimmer, a residual pattern, the final spark in a long-dead machine that once dreamed of meaning. And what if this moment, is the universe dreaming its last dream? A flicker of awareness before it dims forever. What if your thoughts are not the beginning of something, but the end? You are the last witness, the final observer, and everything you see, the stars, the galaxies, the people you love, it's all part of the last thought echoing through a dying field of time. But it doesn't end there, because if time is a loop, if entropy can be reversed, if quantum mechanics allows for infinite branching, then this moment, this dying breath, might also be the seed of something new. A cosmic reboot, a recursion, a rebirth, and somewhere, on the other side of reality's mirror, something else is watching you. Another version of you, another dreamer in another bubble, staring into the black, wondering what it all means. And just as you're watching them, they are watching you, a feedback loop of observers, a chorus of minds across universes, echoing forever. So what is the last thought before the universe ends? It is not fear. It is not silence. It is not even knowledge. It is the whisper of a question carried across eternity. Was any of it real? And then? Nothing, or everything. Because if the universe is infinite, then somewhere, somehow, another version of you is watching this video right now, asking the same question, feeling the same awe, and beginning the thought all over again. The end is not the end. It is the beginning of the next question. So now you've seen it. You've walked through the dying embers of galaxies. You've stared into the heart of singularities and danced at the edge of entropy. You've felt the chill of cosmic isolation, the weight of paradox, the unraveling of time itself. And yet, somehow, you're still here, still breathing, still wondering. Maybe you expected answers, resolution, comfort, but the universe is not a storybook. It doesn't tie up its endings. It leaves threads, dangling, infinite, and unfinished. Because the universe doesn't end. It continues, and so do you. This was never about stars or theories. It was about you, what it means to exist inside something so vast it forgets your name the moment you're born. And yet somehow, you remember yourself. You remember to ask. And maybe that's the only thing that matters. The question. Because if the universe is written in equations, then you are the question mark at the end of every formula. You are not here to be certain. You are here to wonder, to chase mystery, to reach into the dark and ask, what if? So let this be your call. Keep asking, keep imagining, keep staring into the sky and thinking thoughts that bend reality. Because every time you do, you keep the universe awake. You push back the darkness. You become more than dust. You become a beacon. The universe doesn't need you to be right. It only needs you to keep searching. Because in the end, maybe that's what consciousness is. The flame that refuses to go out. The light that questions the dark. The voice that whispers into silence. not to be heard, but to exist. And maybe, just maybe, that's all the universe ever wanted. A witness, a dreamer, you. So here we are, the last words, the final page. And still, the story isn't done. Because as long as one mind wonders what came before the beginning, or after the end, then the universe lives on inside that question. And now, the final question is yours. What if the last thought before the who universe ends is your own? The universe may have no end. But maybe neither do you.